Well, hello and welcome to the Power Couple podcast, where we help you power on with light and power off at night. Today, we have the privilege of sitting down with researcher, inventor, author, and entrepreneur Mandara Cromwell, CEO of Cyma Technologies. Mandara studied early cymatic therapy with British osteopath Peter Guy Manners and was awarded the Diplomat of Cymatic Bioenergetic Medicine at Bretforton Hall in the UK. She later received her Doctorate of Cymatic Medicine through Medicina Alternativa in 2004. Mandara coined the term cymatherapy to distinguish between cymatics, the study of wave phenomena, and the therapeutic application of specific sound frequencies. She's made it her life's work to take Dr. Manners' efforts to greater heights through ongoing research, education, and collaboration. A long proponent of sound as a healing modality, Dr. Cromwell has spent more than 2 decades researching the efficacy of both the visual and auditory aspects of sound, and there are many applications for improving health. Extended travels to India and China allowed further investigation of the ancient teachings of Ayurveda and Chinese medicine, and insight into the healing power of sound, which led Mandara to innovate the AMI acoustic meridian intelligence concept and devices. The AMI 750 was nominated for the 2013 Thomas Edison Award for Innovation in the fields of science and medicine. Dr. Cromwell is the author of Soundflower, The Journey to Marry Science and Spirit, and she continues to research and develop the many applications of therapeutic sound utilizing sound-made visible images to create products such as the Soundflower Experience. This new sound visual phenomena and other Cyma technologies products use the visual imprints of healing frequencies designed to inspire and cultivate vibrant health and longevity. Cyma Technologies is a futuristic, spiritually inspired company which manufactures sound therapy devices to create vibrant health, jobs of the future, and new ways of thinking. Don't we need that today? Her mission is to be one of the many seeking to change the face of healthcare in America and the world, watch out, through advanced sound technology. Dr. Cromwell is the founder of the International Sound Therapy Association, nonprofit organization, and promotes the science of cymatics through conferences, products, and educational courses. Thank you so much, Dr. Cromwell, for coming on the Power Couple podcast.
Well, it's great to be here. I'm looking forward to sharing this time with you.
Thank you. Thank you. And just to give credit where credit's due, I first heard of Dr. Cromwell through Robert Gilbert on Gaia Television, and I first heard of Robert Gilbert on Paul Chek's podcast. So, Paul Chek, if you're listening, thank you. And also, I want to thank our listeners and subscribers and clients who inspired me to look into sound therapy more. And this is why I'm interviewing Dr. Cromwell today. So, Dr. Cromwell, if you can just give everybody kind of your background. I know I kind of laid out a long intro there, but how did you get into this field?
It started in the beginning. Ever since I was a child, I was very interested in sound and vibration. And I grew up in a small community where we had a Gothic style architecture Catholic church. And
Oh,
so I
cool.
grew up attending that church. But in that particular type of architecture, the stained glass windows, the halos around the
Mm.
angels and the saints, and the way that the pipe organ sounded, I felt I could fly. So it was very vibrationally and acoustically charged. And so from that, I was very interested in studying art and architecture. And after college, actually went to India and found another type of art and architecture there, where their temples were built a little bit along the same principles as the Gothic style cathedrals. And so these are places of really, I feel, were our first hospitals where people would go to become aligned, not only spiritually, but also physically. There would be a great sound grid created walking into the temples, feeling those stones, those granite stones that were permeating with hundreds of years of mantras and chanting. And, they have a quartz component. We have a crystalline structure within our blood. We have this great network of communication that goes on there when we're just touching those surfaces. And then, the amazing columns and spires and domes, just like in the Gothic cathedrals. So, here we have two sort of different cultures that are sharing similar principles of, for me, health and wellness.
Hmm.
And so, anyway, after being in India and studying Ayurveda and coming back to the United States, I taught yoga and meditation and had a corporate job because back then you couldn't make a living at at Ayurveda and meditation. But that's changing today, which is really very exciting. So anyway, fast forward to 2001, and I received a phone call from an anonymous person, and we started talking about sound and vibration. And he is the person who brought my attention to Dr. Peter Guy Manners, a British osteopath. Now, I had already known about Dr. Hans Jenny, who is the Swiss medical doctor who coined the term cymatics and developed this field of the study of wave phenomena. So he is the first person who, in modern day, took technology to make sound visible. So all of those images that you see on the internet of a plate with salt or sand sprinkled on the top, those are of his generation. He's the guy who really started that from a technical aspect. Now, if we go back hundreds of years to Ernst Clodney, known as the father of acoustics. He is the one who was traveling around Europe and sprinkling sand on a plate with and strumming a violin bow to create geometric patterns.
Oh, wow.
So it goes back even further. So when I studied all of those historical figures, it made sense that the architects of the Gothic cathedrals and the Hindu temples had some form of knowing of how to imprint their columns and their domes with these cymatic figures. We call them cymatics today, but back then, I guess they were probably known as geometric or sacred geometry.
Hmm.
So anyway, that's sort of how I got into sound and vibration and natural health and healing, studying Ayurveda, the oldest medical system that is still in existence today. And I've also studied Chinese medicine. And again, both of these are wonderful traditions that point us to a more natural and balanced way of living. They very much connect to ancient cosmology of where we align with the stars. And if we look at temples and those Gothic cathedrals, the architects always align them with some star pattern.
Yeah, it's really mind blowing how those cathedrals are, that's why they call it the organ, right? Is that true? Because it kind of harmonizes some of our organs. Um,
So
I,
true.
yeah. And why do you think the buildings are the way they are today? Why are they not, why, why have we fallen away from that knowledge, or is the knowledge being suppressed? What changed in humanity? Was it when Edison came on the scene and, you had these other spiritual forces at play, maybe that are pushing humanity to technology too fast, or like, what do you think was the shift? Because you don't see these structures being built anymore.
Yeah, I think it's repeat. These cycles are repeated throughout history, in my view of what I've studied. There becomes this like golden age, the Renaissance period, where all of this, knowledge and beauty, wisdom comes forth and flowers, and everyone is vibrant. And then, the pendulum sort of swings the other way when maybe egos or power struggles hate to bring in politics, but political
Mm-hmm.
aspirations come into
Mm-hmm.
how people struggle to, I want to make it better for this, and I want to. And so anyway, there,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
ego comes in, and then like right now, for decades, we have all been calling for change. And we are in the midst of some really big changes, which is very exciting. Sometimes we think it's not really the change we were looking for,
Mm-hmm.
but we do have to start the movement process. And sometimes in the initial phases, that change looks like, oh no, we don't want that. But really, we need to kind of get the boulders up and rolling so that then we can guide them in the pathways where we want them to go. So I think it's a very exciting time, and I think architecture is coming back to that golden mean, the golden phi ratio, which is so pleasing. And particularly now when we have a lot of, I want to say, environmental challenges, environmental toxicity. And I'm talking not just about food and air quality. I'm talking about the toxicity of the frequencies. A lot of people are very sensitive to the 5G patterns that are being emitted. And so to come back to these structures or anything that introduces this golden phi, golden mean ratio, the things that we see naturally in nature, as the flowers blossom and the trees, the wind, all of this is a signal to us. It's calling us back to our own balance. Unfortunately today, physically, we have all of these health conditions that are pretty challenging to deal with. I mean, not only do we have the environment, but this environment, and I'm not saying the environment is the only thing, but it's a big player. We also have, just our modern day stress.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, people take that term stress, oh yeah, I'm stressed out, very gingerly, when really that is a big thing. Chronic stress, which any physician who has been studying and looking at the research over the past couple of decades will tell you that there's enough research out there now that says chronic stress, which leads to chronic inflammation, is the underlying cause of all dis-ease.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true, physical and emotional. And we can talk more about that if you like.
Yeah, no, and yeah, it can't be overemphasized for sure. When you're saying the golden phi ratio is being brought back, are you seeing that in certain regions of the world, or is it like in certain pockets of the US? Where are you seeing this movement again?
I think architects are beginning to look at the communities. And so architecture that, we kind of have gotten into some really interesting shapes of rooms within the house, architecture exterior, facades. And we find that people, at first, they want something different. And that's good because that's part of change. But now we're coming back to wanting this golden phi ratio, and there are a lot of architects who are paying attention to this. So I see it in pockets throughout, actually throughout the whole world,
Hmm.
but particularly the United States. We have the European community, where in Europe you go there and the structures are hundreds of years old.
Hmm.
You come to America and something stands for 50, 60, maybe 70 years, and then we wipe it
Hmm.
away and start anew.
Hmm.
So, it's more rigid in
Hmm.
the European tradition. In the Asian countries, where we have like the temples that are built, the Hindu, the Jain, the Buddhist, all of those types of temples and that type of architecture has been standing for not only hundreds but thousands of years, and
Hmm.
people continually make pilgrimage or travel there on a regular basis to get kind of this realignment.
Hmm.
And it's the same in Greece, the Greek ruins, somehow or another when we go to those spots, those Aegean along the Aegean Sea where the temples of Asclepius were built, even if they're no longer standing and we're just there in the ruins, we feel a type of resonance, we feel a type of calm, we connect to some part of our past as well as what is nurturing to us at the present.
Wow. Yeah, it kind of gives me goosebumps thinking about that because yeah, the past is imprinted in us, in that eternal now, like they say. It's all happening. But yeah, so how can you help people? All right, so not everybody can go to the ruins of Asclepius, right? That's a, even though that would be great, we're encouraging you to do that. But what you've done with your technology, explain how you can bring maybe not that total experience, but you're bringing that same sound frequency to somebody who really needs it, somebody who is sick, or needs some kind of regeneration. How does that technology work?
So let me just connect a little bit here. So when I was in India, and by the way, I have small tours that I take people to India so that they can experience the temples, the light and sound vibrations, and explain the geometry and that type of thing. So because that's very powerful.
That's
So if
so
you want to
cool.
take a tour, come on with me.
All right.
My next one is in November. But anyway, the important part is that when I came back to the United States and I was teaching meditation and yoga and practicing Ayurveda, etc., um, I it is very difficult to explain to people how to change. People are usually resistant to change. They aren't very welcoming, particularly when it comes to their diet or their daily habits. They've been practicing this way for quite some time. And so those cymatic patterns have been at play for quite some time. And those cymatic patterns are deeply imprinted at the cellular level. So it takes a while to shift this. And sound, I have found, can do that. So initially, I found it with the mantra and the certain instruments and music from India. And then when I was introduced to Dr. Peter Guy Manners, he had a sound box, technology. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is now, ancient wisdom with modern science.
Hmm.
How can we get this to the people? And so he bequeathed to me his body of work. And so I continue that work. What he told me was that the device that he was working with was only acceptable or appropriate for people who had gone through some medical training. And when I found how powerful those sound frequencies were, my immediate quest was how can I make this affordable and available to the public? Because too many people are hurting. People need help in a natural way, but they need help in a quick way, something very effective. And so that's where I took took what he had bequeathed to me and then now created some user-friendly devices. And so
Hmm.
the first device that that I have right here is called the AMI 850. And so you just sit in a chair and put your feet on the device, and it has 20 different channels that address stress, inflammation, sleep, digestion, the immune system, the cardiovascular system, toxicity, bones, etc. And so by putting all of that and doing research as to are they actually working? Is it having a physiological effect was what I did. And so what I'll do is quickly show you some studies, and I'm going to hold this up here. And for those who are just listening, I'll describe what we're looking at. This is a quick study of peripheral vascular disease, peripheral
Sorry,
artery
sorry,
disease.
Mandara. I hate to interrupt. 1 second. I have somebody here. 1 second. Okay, elderly couple wanted to come into my backyard and take a look at the nature. So they're walking around there. Okay.
Oh, what a gift.
Okay, sorry about that.
Sharing what's really nourishing. That's great. Nature is the best.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, sorry, Mandara. Go ahead.
That's okay. Well, let me show you here this study for peripheral artery disease and peripheral vascular disease. And so what we're looking here is at the lower leg. So you see this red is, these are thermographic images indicating intense inflammation and pain in these areas. After 15 minutes of using my device, you see it's greatly diminished. Now, what's really important here, Roman, is that this is very significant for today's population in the sense that we are all guilty of rigorous sitting.
Hmm.
We are a very sedentary society. And what happens is the blood goes down, but it has a really hard time coming back up. And that's what you see here in this picture where it's very inflamed and painful. When we don't use our muscles or we're not very active, the blood pools in the lower extremities. And so that's when we begin to get into trouble with this inflammatory process that becomes extremely chronic. So what we want to do is keep things moving, at a good rate. And so then you can see that the device right after 15 minutes is really starting to have a significant impact on that. And this was published in the BIMS journal.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's a human. And so here's another study that would be very interesting for people to see. These are ultrasound, diagnostic ultrasound. And so this is on equine tissue, is a 95% tear. So a lot of sports people can relate to this. This is a 95% tear of like something in the humans would be like an Achilles tendon. So if you know of any sports people who have injured or torn their Achilles tendon, their sports career is probably in retirement phase. And so, anyway, after 6 weeks, we see that the tissue is totally regenerated.
Wow.
And so these are with these sounds. So here I'm sharing with you that audible sound created applied to the body transdermally in an analog version, not a digital version, analog waves, sine waves, which we find in nature. And so our body has a natural affinity to these types of sound waves. And so then you can relate to, oh gosh, what my body is speaking the same language. It's kind of like being retuned with the organ in the
Hmm.
church, the pipe organ in the church. So it's like, but that we have sound frequencies that are very specifically targeted to this particular type of tissue and tendon and ligament.
And I remember when I saw you on Gaia television, there was I forget now if it was something with regeneration of teeth or of bone. What are some of the more extreme examples you can share, or of people you've seen recover and that you've helped?
Yes, let me show you something that you'll like to see for that to answer that. So this is has to do with the teeth, and studies are now showing that if you have any root canals, cavitations, um, crowns that are maybe faulty dental work, that is leaking into other parts of the body. So here you see a woman who and here's the lymph nodes. This is there, lots of chronic inflammation. And this process has been going on for 10 years. And everything that she tried. Now, I like to show this particular person because she's the wife of a chiropractor, and chiropractic physicians, as a rule, like to think outside the box.
Mm.
So her husband had her on lots of nutraceuticals and different IVs, lasers, etc. But so nothing was really moving this or turning this situation around. So what we see that, and the lymph nodes is one of the first things they want to take, and this woman was on schedule for something to intervene here from the Western medical world.
Mm.
And then here you see in this picture, 6 weeks after using the device, the chronic inflammation is totally calmed. Now that's
Mm.
great, because what does that mean? That means that the body now has the resources to nourish itself, repair itself in other systems. It's
Mm.
not sending all the warriors just to this spot and they're in a chronic inflammatory process. So if you look up here in the teeth area, you see that there was great inflammation here. So when we look at this meridian, this is the stomach spleen meridian. And in practically all breast cancers that we track, there is a cavitation or a root canal in this particular meridian that's draining here. So here's after 6 weeks. So I'm showing this to you because after 6 weeks, you see there's still some inflammation up here. So we asked this person, could they go visit their dentist to see what's there? And indeed, she had a root canal there that,
Mm.
and see, when we have those types of situations in our mouth,
Mm.
they silently brew for years, sometimes decades, into a very, you know, a health diagnosis that we really wish we could
Avoid.
avoid. Yeah.
Mm.
Uh-huh. So I actually came up with a protocol from the AMI 850 to help this woman. And so if people want to go to my website, they can
Mm.
go on AMI research and see pain and inflammation in the oral cavity and see what those thermographic images do. So when you're looking at the thermographic image, if it's really red and white, that means it's really hot and there's high inflammation
Mhm.
there. Now, I like using thermography in my research because it's non-invasive. If you go to your doctor and you're getting blood work, ask them to check the CRP, the C-reactive protein numbers in your blood. And that's an inflammatory marker in blood
Mm.
work that you can track. And
Mm.
so that would be really good. But so you can affect the oral cavity with the AMI 850. But just last week, I came out with a handheld device
Mm.
that is called the AMI 500, and you can apply it directly to the jawline,
Mm.
and that way address the dental issues right on. Now, I will just say here, according to the FDA, these are class 1 devices, which means you don't need a prescription to own one. Um, and we don't make any medical claims other than we relieve stress and pain. So we're really good at relieving stress and pain. And if any of your other situations resolve, we're really happy for you. Uh,
That's
so,
great.
some of the first things when people use our devices, they report is that they have better digestion
Mm.
and better sleep.
Mm.
And sleep, we're a whole culture that is not sleeping very well. So sleep is a big deal because that's when the body goes into its rejuvenation process. And so if you're not getting that deep sleep, you're getting cheated out of that repair system.
Yeah, and I like what you said too about how you give the body the resources then to fight what it needs to fight because it's so true. If you're stuck in a chronic inflammation, you're putting soldiers out on the front line to like defend your, the village of your body, of your brain or your town, and you're constantly sending troops out there, but you're not, those troops are never getting fed. or you're never getting nourished, right? So you're just like a constant